Welcome back into the Sports Source. This segment of the program brought to you by Safety Systems. Tonight, during the Super Bowl, when you're sitting there wishing you had a better home theater set up, remember the name Safety Systems, because that's the group you can call to have a better setup by next football season. You know, they got so many options now. A sound bar, big screen TV, some surround sound action, all control from your phone or your tablet. Safety Systems has all these options that makes it affordable. They can make it affordable for you. Call them. Call VFL J.J. Surlis this week. Ask him about figuring out a way to do a little bit of a home theater system in your home. Safety Systems. All right. Up next, we've got our annual Super Bowl prop bets where we tie today's game into UT basketball events coming up this week. It's always fun. Mark Pankratz back with us now to talk about Tennessee's schedule. We said that it wasn't the death knell for Tennessee last night, and it turns out, incredibly, they actually moved up in the RPI after yesterday. Oregon, who they lost to but played well earlier in the year, they routed Arizona yesterday. Kansas State, who Tennessee beat Baylor yesterday. So who you play and how they do impacts your RPI as well, but Tennessee moved up to number 35 in the NCAA's RPI. Let's take a look at Tennessee's remaining schedule. It's not over, and we both don't think they're going to make it because you got to do a good run here. But out of this, if you were to make it, draw me up the path to an NCAA tournament bid. I mean, the can't loses are those horrible RPIs. You can't lose to Missouri, LSU.
You can't lose to them, especially with Missouri being at home. And you know, you really can't lose to anybody at home. I think you've got, if you are going to lose one, it's Georgia. You know, Georgia's a team that has got a chance to still beat some really good teams on your schedule. But I think you got to finish the season strong and win the games at home. You can't lose LSU like you talked about. And then it's South Carolina, Kentucky. Those are the ones that you can if you do lose them, you kind of tip your cap and say, all right, we'll see what happens on Selection Sunday.
To me, to really get into this thing, even with the RPI at 35, I almost look at that and say you better win the rest except for Kentucky. I mean, you almost need one of those Kentucky, South Carolina to really give you another big win on the year. I don't think you're going to beat Kentucky and Lexington. So upsetting South Carolina over there, which would be a tall order too. Yeah. But it's hard for me to see them losing to Kentucky and South Carolina and still getting in. I just don't know if you have enough good wins at that point.
Yeah, I don't want – I mean, Mississippi State, it's not over because of the loss of Mississippi, but it just makes it so much harder.
Yeah.
Because you got to beat two top-ranked teams in their place. Kentucky's struggling, and they're going to be revving up, ready to go. It's going to be really hard on the stretch.
It'll be interesting to see, and we'll talk about it the closer we come to tournament time, but what kind of team, when we look at Tennessee, how much noise do we think they could make in the SEC tournament? Because it may come down to that. If they can play well the rest of the schedule, let's say you only lose 2 and you're on the bubble still and you need a good tournament run, how far can this team go in the tournament?
And we couldn't use youth as a excuse yesterday because Mississippi State was younger, but the reality is the season is long for these young kids and these inexperienced guys. So down the stretch, how are we going to perform? Are we going to have the legs underneath us? Robert Hubbs, I promise you Robert Hubbs was not healthy yesterday. There's something else going on there. Do we have the legs to run the table like we'll need to?
Very good. Mark Pankratz, thank you. We'll see you next week. And coming up next, our Vol-flavored Super Bowl prop bets. We do it every year. We're never right. Come on back.